Do you think there are kind of structural factors that influence what an organisation like a UN or an AU can or cannot do?
The problem with the UN, I understand, I've not mediated for the UN, so I was involved in an African Union mediation, but I watch my colleagues, and to this day in the UN, they don't have the flexibility that a mediator needs, because they are receiving instructions from headquarters. What does headquarters mean? Well, it's either the Security Council or the powerful states on the Council, or it's the Secretary General's office, who's being pressurized by member states that are big donors and powerful. And so you're being buffeted from the top when you want to be worried about what's going on around you. And it can be very, very distracting and diverting. If you are tough and senior, Kofi Annan mediating in Kenya, there's much less chance of that happening because you're in command and you know you're in command, and you can resist that kind of pressure. But sometimes it's not possible. In our mediation for Darfur, 2005, 2006 in the budget, we were receiving instructions from the AU Peace and Security Council that were not Darfur. And they were instructions. And the instructions were speed this thing up, end by the end of the month, produce an agreement. And we were saying, can't be done. We don't have an agreement amongst the parties. Write a piece of paper. I mean, been there, done that. But that's not an agreement, that's a piece of paper. We can't broker peace quickly, the parties are not ready for it. And we were being told the funders will pull the plug on this. So finish this thing, give us the text. So there's lots of unhelpful stuff that comes in these kind of organizations. What they have, which NGOs don't have, NGOs have a lot of freedom and flexibility, but they don't have the authority. African Union has the authority, UN has the authority. And so I'm not sure what the solution is. I mean, you've got pros and cons going both ways. And we've had NGOs do a good job and a bad job. And the UN and the AU do a good job and a bad job from case to case. So there's not a clear pattern. If the question were, what makes for the best mediator institutionally, there's no clear evidence. Sometimes states are good, sometimes it's non-states, sometimes it's the regional or the organizational body. But I would say quite emphatically, your mediator has to be given some freedom and flexibility. Within very broad parameters, so there must be some parameters, and the parameters are, well, we're not going to facilitate an agreement that is contrary to international law, that violates international humanitarian law, that allows for torture. If I'm mediating in South Africa, any agreement has to be consistent with the law and the constitution, because we live in a democracy. And I can't, as a mediator, support anything that allows for illegality. But that's the parameter. Within that parameter, what's the job of the mediator? Help the parties solve the problem to their satisfaction. And everybody else butt out.